Jeremy Carrier, maintenance facility supervisor. So my main concern, hearing all of what intentions were for the field, was, of course, as was already discussed, early spring. We have a lot of water that stays in that field for a long period of time. Usually when we're mowing it early spring in April, we're pulling clumps with the mower, but we're unable to leave it grow longer. We have a bigger problem with that. With zero turns or other equipment, every time you turn it off, unless we go on to the actual blacktop of the track, we would dig it up. At this time of the year, there's already a lot of clumps that are there. There's a lot of bald spots that are already there from the soccer season, which we didn't end last year until the end of October. We closed probably one of the latest times that I've seen with some of it, where kids were out there playing, whether it was full organized games or just pickup games. We've never seen so much use. People also drag the nets around the field. As you can see, if you went out there today, we put them in the place where they're supposed to be. Tried to amend some of the soil a couple of weeks ago, and already we have nets, dragged around by people that visit the park. At this time of the year, if we were to try to put down seed, we run into another issue other than the potential of playing on it very soon for this sport. The GAA also pays to have fertilization and weed control put down on the fields. So the fields really never get a chance to have any type of seedlings grow on the field before they're killed. They don't get to germinate, which was a concern of mine every year since I've started, that we don't give that field any type of break. We go from closing it down to just as soon as it's able to actually be used, it gets used. So we don't really rotate out fields. We don't stop playing on that field for, say, 1 year, give it a break, let it recover. We do have irrigation on there, which, as you've seen from years past, we don't have to really turn on until almost June because the water is so high, the table that's out there. My big concern, as already discussed, it's a very rigorous sport for them to play lacrosse. We're used to little children that are out there that are already tearing up these fields, being youth with small feet and small cleats. My concern would be if we have junior or senior high students out there playing lacrosse, the fields are just going to get torn up. Not intentionally, of course, but playing the game the way it's intended to be played, to defend, the goals, to run across the field, they're going to get really decimated. And I don't think they're going to bounce back in any 1 year period of time once they're done. As I said, potentially if they could leave town and then come back, I don't know whether that would still give it time for any type of recovery in the spring, because if we try to plant seed, we'll see if we can try to coordinate with the person from Country Lawn Care that's doing it, if he can hold off a little bit on his weed control. So maybe we at least plant, but as probably anybody in this room knows, if you plant seed, the roots aren't going to be strong to withstand plague right away. So that's my main concern. That's why we had thought when it came together before for the meeting was maybe they had another location on their property at the high school they could have played. And as you had said, Rick, we had thought about that front area because we knew that in the past they've used that for doing practice. And then we've also seen on the backside at the high school, for the backside of where the outfield is for the baseball, because we do mow the high school property. So if we see how much, again, it can get torn up just from having a practice, never mind games. So I don't know if you have any questions that you want to.
Jim, you mentioned that field, is that with the high school to do the lights for the class thing?
But they have lined them off already for practice, so I don't know whether or not. Also, we have that area that's right behind the school, before the track area where they've had practice in there before.
To the left if you're walking back.
I think before that, it's actually not been played as soccer fields. I've seen them use those and line them off for lacrosse in the past. Probably have to talk to John Sullivan and see what the dimensions were or what they laid that out with.
So immediately behind like the gym area.
Correct.
Okay.
So do we soccer?
We put in like practice areas with there's like sewer covers and leach field. The leach field.
Leach field's underground. I wouldn't be concerned about a leach field. Unless they're digging down a couple of feet.
And there was one question from John Sullivan before about if they had to come over and actually mow the property. And of course, the mowers would have to be brought over. Because again, at this time of year, we usually don't mow it too often because of how wet it is. So if they were
We're talking about at Brown Ellison.
at Brown Ellison, correct. We'd be worried about that. And then he was talking about how there was so a little concerned. We're also going to start a big pile of lawn clippings there, which we tried last year to minimize and get rid of. And we don't have direct outlets that he asked if we have or any other connections out there. So I don't know if it was electrical he needed for broadcasting anything for sports or what it was, but there's no electrical there.
So in your opinion, in a perfect world, you would like that ball field or soccer field not to be used at all, so it could.
I mean, in a perfect world, we'd rather even see GAA not use it for a year. So to add on to the burden already of a field getting overused,
Yeah,
prefer not to see.
It's right there.
Yeah, I prefer not to see a high school age come and tear it up even more.
Yeah, it's a lot more.
So then you're going to ruin it for the youth that if you've got a divot on a field to a high school player probably wouldn't be much. But once you start getting down to shoes that are no bigger than the palm of my hands, I think you're going to have tripping.
My kids were there. I remember.
Yes.
Just a thought, Jeremy, have you guys thought about Jubales Park, that big open field? I know it's went towards the front, but what about towards the playground area?
Yeah, I mean, have you been? Yeah,
Playground where the kids are playing.
yeah. I don't know if you've been there lately. We were just there today, and it's pretty soaked.
Yeah.
That's all wet through there. This is actually
Nice water table in town too.
this is actually the highest I've ever seen it over there in all the years I've lived in Granby with the amount of water that's standing. I don't know what the next couple of weeks would entail, whether it'll dry up or not, but it is soaked.
What about the other field where the charter day they set up all the food carts? Is that a usual field for sports? I don't know how even it is.
Oh, the gazebo area.
Yeah.
It's drier.
So the more the field where we used to park towards the trees. That would be big enough where the rocks are.
But you can't do that. Right now, we're going to be doing
From a line.
logging of everything. The equipment's being brought in tomorrow. So technically, I mean, that park on that whole side would really be off limits to anybody because they're looking at locking the gate down. And I don't know how long that's going to last because of weather. They were just pushed back over a week because of the rain and wet terrain.
We're in a little bit of a quandary here, aren't we, folks?
It's really, it's really late to be, even a couple months ago to say, okay, in March, we want to use the field. If it kind of been thought of maybe last year. Yeah, maybe something could have been switched around or thought out ahead of time.
Well, that's one of the reasons I'm asking for all these other areas at the school.
But by late April, it's usually dried out by then.
Enough to be on it for mowing, I don't know.
That's the
What conditions will
It's
have.
soft soil there too at that level.
It is. It's kind of funny because they have a system in there where fortunately they have a lot of rocks there. So we don't get good seepage of the water down through, the same as the roots don't really go deep. It seems like if you dig down about 6 to 8 inches,
You hit a lot.
then you start hitting rocks and different things. So once it's wet, it takes a while to dry out through there.
Yeah. How long's the game? Soccer, lacrosse game? Hour? 2 hours? I was just thinking time on the field, if it's only an hour, once a week or something like that. What are we looking at? 2 games a week there?
Um,
And that's 4 games, right?
It's so beginning of April.
So for an April form then. Because we have what's the away games, so those are the 8 home games. Do you want to hear from the TAA or?
I'm here with 3 different ones.
Oh, that's right. And then I'll hear from neighbors, I'll take you to me.
Time hasn't changed.
So, let's see, first hat would be Parks Committee. So again, we have so many kids on that field in the fall and again in the spring that there is some definite concern about overuse of the field. Typically, we have not let GAA soccer on the field until the week after April vacation, just to give it time to dry out. I know in the past, and I'm not sure if it was during Jeremy's tenure, but I think it was before that, we actually had maintenance. Their mowers got stuck on the field because the field was so soft that they had to pull them off. So that's definite concern. Switching to my GAA hat, we are, for every night that they have to come in and use it, we are displacing 2 to 3 teams who will be using that backfield. And then assuming if there's a rain out, then you're displacing 2 or 3 teams on a different night. So that's just something to think about.
Can I interrupt you for a second? You say backfield?
So GAA uses the backfield for the older kids and then the front field, which is right next to the parking lot, the one that's closer to the road.
Okay.
That's for the younger.
The backfield's the one with the track.
Yes. Yep. So that's usually like what we call the under 10s, the under 11s, the under 12s. And then say 4th and younger uses the front field for their practices and games. So there is some concern that we are displacing them. And then again, if there are rainouts, we're displacing them twice. And then of course, switching hats again. I have a son who plays boys lacrosse, so this would obviously directly affect me and him and his teammates and stuff, and just concerned about how do we get the boys to the field. If they start early, we have no restroom facilities there. There are no bleachers for the parents. There's no electricity. There's none of that stuff. And then, of course, like I said, just getting them to the field. I know most of the boys, some of the boys have their licenses, but I'm certainly not going to let my son haul around 5 younger kids who can't get there. So you are inconveniencing the parents trying to get them there.
That's like a cancel.
So GAA will bring them when their season starts, but if GAA doesn't start until like that very last week of April and the high school comes on earlier, then they would, I assume, be responsible for providing their own same camp.
Thank you.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Oh, and I do have I did my homework, all the field sizes and everything. And if you look at it, boys lacrosse, girls lacrosse, and then high school soccer, everything could basically fit in the same area. And I'll just tell you, I'll be completely honest. I mean, the boys have been playing in a dust bowl essentially for the last 4 years. So if we could figure something out where some of
Boys, what team you attend?
boys lacrosse
At the high school?
at the high school. So I know there's Dylan saying there's some concrete issues and things like that. I honestly don't know about that, but if there was any way that we could keep the boys at the high school, that would be a home run, I think. And again, if you look at the information that the MIA sent me, I think it can be done. Obviously, I know that soccer field in the back is gorgeous, and we're doing all the best that we can to keep that field as beautiful as we possibly can. But if we think that them playing 8 games on our field isn't going to be an issue, then I question why playing 8 games on their field is an issue. If that makes sense.
I think it's ripped up the irrigation though.
No. So I'm saying, why the boys can't play on the girls' field. I know it would be 2 different sets of lines, which at GAA field, the Brown Ellison field, would also be 2 different sets of, there would probably be 3 or 4 different sets of lines, because we have lines for the U10 team, the lines for the U12 team, and there would be lines for the older kids, which, someone would have to come and line those fields, someone would have to come and mow those fields, because there's just a lot of things.
Concern is just the posts that are permanent, the boys
Yeah.
have to.
Well, like I said, I don't know where that is. I know if you look at the field size overall, it looks like the overall rectangle is the same or can be made to be the same. There's a lot of wiggle room as far as the field is roughly between 100 and 120 yards. So you've got some wiggle room in there as far as how big you want it to be. And so, yeah, I mean, I also have a daughter that plays soccer, so I certainly don't want to see a really good soccer field get destroyed. But, you know, it'd be nice if the boys, I mean, obviously they can't have any spectators over there over at Brownhouse, and you lose some of that school spirit type stuff. You don't get the, you know, the snack shack, or you don't get the scoreboard. I mean, it seems like simple things, but that is kind of part of the whole experience. Yeah, and to be able to have kids walk out from school and be able to watch a game and cheer their friends on. I mean, like I said, it seems like something that's kind of irrelevant, but it's super important to, you know, the whole experience.
Thank you.
No.
And then one another slight incorrect. Do you want to do the appointment and then?
No.
Yeah. So.
Oh, we're your chat away.
Yeah.
You're like a teenage. I want to bring up Mr. Dubuque get in a little bit.
I just want to honor his friendships. Yeah.
So you heard the concerns. So
Yeah, and they're all valid concerns, and when we first put out the request, I said I would be open to conversation, talk about concerns, try to, you know, problem solve and come up with solutions as a group, but there was no communication and there wasn't really an opportunity to hear their side of things. So some of the things are coming to light now, and some of the concerns that Megan brought up, we've thought about, and you know, we had things in place that could potentially work. But you know, when the field is holding water like that and overuse and things like those are all valid concerns that we didn't know about because it wasn't communicated to us. So
can we task you to try to find a field at the school?
yeah, so we've racked our heads and you know, walked the perimeters of the school and things like that. There's really not a safe space.
So the one out front is the safety is not the ball going out into the road. I get that.
Yeah.
There.
So the backfield that was mentioned is across of our JV baseball field, which will be used for practices and games. We put a practice soccer field out there, and there's an absolute yeah, that's just, you know, when you've got one outfielder out there chasing balls, it's a little different than 11 on 11. You know, whether it's soccer or lacrosse, we haven't hosted games back there because of that in a long time now.
So from what I've been hearing from these other folks on it, I think April is totally out of the picture on there. Later on, I don't know how, I guess it has to go by checking the field out. It's with the water.
Yeah, I mean, we're open to, you know, looking at the school again and looking at different parks within the town. We would love to keep them in town and give them an option. But like I said, we do have Plan B in place to, you know, we're just not far from now that we're going to get rocking and rolling here. So I think I'm speaking without having talked to everybody at the school, but I feel it's really important if we could get them one game in town. If we have to revisit potentially cramming onto the varsity field as an option for one game, I would try to support that for the boys. But maybe later, mid-May, late May, you know, Brown Elson for one game might be an option. I don't know. I'm just, I think the big one is to try to get them in town for this senior night. Yeah. So.
After hearing everybody's side, I think like Griff said for April, I think those 4 games would be below Plan B. But I think for May, we visit this on April 15th, our select board meeting. That's it.
Pictures best.
Oh, I will have some.
That's a picture.
Okay, so would we be having our meeting on the 16th, that Tuesday, or the following?
That's the vacation zone for the next weekend.
So, you know, if we revisit it either at the beginning of, also the beginning of April, we're not going to know how the field work. is gonna look. We're not gonna know until then.
Certain 2 weeks in April, usually never. Would be dry. That would tell you, oh, okay, we're good for May.
Is the word wish to, like, April 22nd.
That's what I'm thinking Earth Day. So April 22nd, and then have you guys come back and we can revisit the fields look.
Why don't we give
And
it
whether we can do at least the senior night, if we can't do it. Like Rick said, obviously we want it at the high school if we can, but if for some reason we can't do it, we can revisit looking at them for May games. Because I don't want them to have to go out of town for all 8 games.
Yeah.
I think the fields are pretty,
Tell me, you said 4
games in May.
home games and 4 away games, right? 8 home games, okay.
So 4 in April, which we can't do because our fields are way too wet.
Yeah.
But we might be able to do in May depending on how it feels.
What are the meetings then?
April 22nd, the first and third Monday of the month, but
So-
the week is. So it would be April 22nd.
Yeah, that's what we'll do the days. We'll have to run you, the 22nd, is that a normal meeting?
Well, it would typically be the 15th, but it's a holiday and school vacation week. So we'll have to move it to the end to,
Okay. It could be here, right?
or that should get us towards the end of April to see what the fields look like. And then we've got a schedule where the games are taking place and stuff, so will that give you enough time to post the last 4 games in May, if we are able to host them in Granby?
Yeah, it would just be a
We just change.
communication with the opposing team, but as long as it stayed on the same day, it shouldn't be an issue.
But I know a lot of towns too, if it's too wet, they'll cancel any playing on the field, and that's not happy actually does that a lot. So if it rains a lot and it's too wet, they cancel all practices and games until the field dries.
Wish it was like that when we're the Hopkins game.
You know, they do a lot. I'm okay with that. Are you okay with that?
Yeah. That hurts. It's actually, we'll try to figure out somewhere on campus.
Yeah, we could revisit it for a 3rd and 4th time. We'll definitely give it another look. It's not something we've just bypassed. We've tried.
No, I understand you, Rick. I understand that. I'm also very concerned about the field with all the rain.
So, yeah, no.
Outrageous. So, I mean, I'm not too hopeful by the end of April seeing anything improvements there. But do the CIA sector
But that one's week
that last week.
after, so the week of the 22nd, I guess.
Yeah.
This is what that was.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
That's what nice stuff. Which hopefully we get, well, we'll say if our showers bring in college, right? Like that highway. We'll have to wait and see.
We don't really know.
We were on results at the end of May last year because of the grade, but same. Seems how it goes along. We just tear them. And they were almost ball tires that we had last year. We were doing this, trying to use the older mower so that we wouldn't dig in, but it's still. We may do it. We might get 60-degree days and wind.
Yeah. Is that out?
All right, see you on the 28th.
I guess.
Mr. Sullivan, I hate to see you go.
It's,
That's for the family, I get it.
tough decision, yes.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
All right,
I'll see you around.
okay. Take care. About the GAA, I mean, the high school music. So that,
How are you? Good, how are you doing? I'm so good, yeah. Sorry. Susan Krieger for the COO director position. So you got this with her question? Yes. All right, so I'll just start off with our beginning paragraph. Very important for you to know that Granby is a small community, but they're elected elderly population. So you'll be wearing little hats. So you'll be organizing medical equipment, managing the budget, newsletters, food pantry, plus and so much more. It's very important to us directors here. We'll be doing the community government hours of operation from 9 to in your experience, so is the key to the It's working at 2 years. We employ several strategies that have made our team successful. First, we communicate often and establish clear goals for ourselves. We ensure a feeling of psychological safety and trust in our group by getting to know each other well. I've come to know how my coworkers like to get feedback, what motivates them, and how they we also hold each other accountable while also maintaining.
Experience in that like that for a person, that's tips.
Last week, teacher conferences, parents expressed concern that their child didn't enjoy my class, and insinuated that loved his class the previous year. I was taken aback by this because the student was very well behaved, and I thought we had great with him. I sought the parents' feedback. They couldn't pinpoint the issue. After the meeting, I involved the student's academic advisor, asking her to discreetly bring up my class during a routine discussion about his academic progress. I deliberately involved a third party to ensure that the student didn't feel intimidated or singled out. For this indirect approach, aimed to like the student was struggling with fatigue from staying up late at night, particularly because my classes during first period. Maybe no other issues besides that. Still, I began implementing opportunities by feedback. During our second parent-teacher conference, his parents were very grateful for my work with them, and we still talk regularly about his sports games.
Thank you. Yeah. Can you give us an example of a success story?
Sure. This year I was tasked with implementing the school's new math curriculum. And this the curriculum often did not address the objectives it set out to meet, and also didn't meet the needs of my students. So to address this, I asked my supervisors if I could redesign parts of the curriculum. My adjustments have been praised by my supervisors and seem to have been very good. The other teachers have been using these resources.
Thank you.
Okay. Can you give us an example of your story and how did you deal with it? Sure. When I began I made assumptions about the students already knew, based on the grade level they were coming from. Some of my first lessons didn't go as planned. It became clear that I misjudged their background knowledge. So to correct this problem, I gave my students regular pre-assessments and began adjusting my daily warm-ups to focus on building foundational skills. Sure. I currently work with students with severe ADHD. Because of this, I find it important to model how to effectively use the executive functioning strategies that I teach them. For example, I use a digital planner to organize my appointments, and I have used
I've used this for many of my competing priorities. So I set my most urgent task at the top of my list and establish a deadline and an estimate for how long it will take me to complete these.
Can you provide an example of when you set expectations and monitor the performance of a subordinate or plural? What guidance and direction do you find the most effective?
I do this frequently with my students and my coworkers. In my experience, it is essential to communicate expectations clearly and early. I like the SMART goal framework for establishing goals that are realistic and measurable. I also find it helpful to provide regular check-ins about performance. The supervisors I have are those who are welcoming and establish themselves as resources and mentors. And I like to do the same.
How would you ensure past completion in a timely manner?
I like to leverage technology to help me manage my tasks. Sometimes I use time to gauge how long I'm spending on it. So that in the future I'm better able to estimate how long it will take me. This makes it easier to plan my schedule and set realistic deadlines. Of course, different people have different strategies, and someone who works with people who struggle with executive functioning and well accustomed to helping people try out things.
How would you motivate staff to go? And what are actually expertise?
In my current role, I motivate my students by getting to know them in the way to be recognized. I also thought the community where mistakes are seen as a part of learning. Additionally, I lead by example. For example, when I make a mistake, I model seeing my mistake as an opportunity to grow. And I share students' experiences where I have gone out of my comfort zone to learn something new, be it a topic I'm unfamiliar with or a new mode of teaching. And I believe this applies to working with staff.
Okay. How would you go about attracting male clients or female clients to this?
My approach to attracting clients is on creating a diverse of programs and activities tailored to the needs and interests of the senior community. I think community outreach is a key strategy. I believe in forming partnerships with local organizations, living communities, healthcare providers, community centers to effectively promote services. Furthermore, I believe in the importance of diversity. Tailoring our programs and outreach efforts to be inclusive of diverse backgrounds, whether it be cultural backgrounds or neurodivergence, I think is essential.
Do you have experience out to different groups with
Recently, I worked on a project that focused on increasing the amount of volunteers and participants for service for adults with disabilities. We advertised an event with a large turnout of people who I don't think currently there was a regular weekly meeting that addressed the same. And so we advertised at this large event. We also reached out to organizations with a similar mission were unable to provide the same service that we provide. And we had roughly a 30% increase in our turnout in my estimation. And so sure, I continue to do that, and I will also incorporate some social media. as well as digital services.
Are you safe?
I'm not, but I would be happy to get the certification.
This is my second part of the question. Yes, it's okay.
Identity good.
Debbie, how would you protect the identity of people receiving assistance, like bag food?
Protect the identity of people receiving assistance at food pantry. I would follow the guidance of the Attorney General, so not requiring photo ID for services, for accepting various forms of ID, and allowing unsensitive questions regarding citizenship or immigration status, as ensuring personal information is kept confidential.
With the growing elderly population in the community, how would you emphasize the ability of the outreach assistance that is available to them?
In addressing the needs of the growing elderly population, I would emphasize outreach assistance through various things. Firstly, it's important to organize events and workshops tailored specifically to educating elderly individuals on accessing access and navigating healthcare systems. Through some volunteering, I've actually added some curriculum that does a great job. Secondly, collaborate closely with senior centers, retired communities, and relevant organizations to ensure information about outreach assistance is widely disseminated. I think we could incorporate the use of digital approaches such as flyers and newsletters, as well as digital platforms like social media and community websites. I also think that home visits and phone calls are
Not all seniors are retired or get up early for that day. So how would you, for immediate half an hour activity, what are some of the ideas they could promote this week to reach our senior members in the community?
Sure. So recognizing all seniors adhere to that schedule, it's important to offer activities at different times throughout the day, including events and weekends. This would accommodate those who may prefer later hours or have other commitments during the day. I also believe that multi-generational would be another effective strategy. This is something that I've actually participated in the Granby area. It's a big part of why I'm interested in this role. This is the friendships I've made in multi-generational events. So I think this would be a great way to bring seniors and people of all age groups together and foster more connection across generations. This could also involve activities, schools, community centers, and volunteer organizations. I also think it's important to consider other aspects of accessibility, such as transportation, venues that are wheelchair accessible. And then lastly, it's important to empower seniors to take an active role in organizing activities when they are able. This allows them to share their skills and expertise and foster a sense of purpose and involvement.
If you don't mind. So I know you said 9 but is there a date you can offer on extended hours for the center? And are you willing to do nights or evenings?
Yeah, I'm personally very flexible. So whatever day in the week would best accommodate the community, I'd be happy to have
So how could you make sure that every elderly person in the community is known by the COA and is aware of offerings, programs, assistance, hours of operations, etc.?
I think proactive outreach initiatives are important, including community events, door-to-door events, and collaboration with local organizations to spread awareness. I also think it's important to leverage technology when possible. So, website updates, email letters. I think we can incorporate some printed, so advertising in newspapers for print media in places where people might be likely to see it, such as like boosters.
And just a question at my rate. So why
Yeah.
be a good fit?
Sure. So for my undergrad, I went to Mount Warrior College, which is very close to Granby. And as I alluded to earlier, my undergraduate experience, I became involved in the Granby community and particularly a multi-generational community within Granby. I saw that there was an opportunity to move back to the area and with older, I felt that fit me perfectly because of my love for the community and from the benefit that I've through multi-generations.
Where did the multi-generational occur in Granby?
I was part of a organization in Granby.
So
Could you share more about the day responsibilities of this role? Can you describe the pace of it?
I don't think it's a high demand base. A lot of it can be based on how you do things. So being more efficient and be more important than other things. It's really just working with the seniors, needs, and you really have the opportunity to really develop them to see and it's fit seniors. And I guess that's what I'm looking for is that an individual puts their own stamp on it, their own ownership of it to make a difference, really have a societal impact to our senior population.
Awesome. All of questions, if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
In your opinion, what's the single most important indicator of success in the role? You mentioned as a name plays.
I think for myself and what I would judge success on is the feedback from the seniors and how they feel that it's going and participation level, things like that. If the seniors are feeling good about the senior center and council be involved in things that are going on here and feeling it's enjoyable and they want to come here, want to be part of it, be that successful.
Gotcha. That's awesome. By the way, I feel like I buried the lead a little bit. In part of my second generation work in Granby, a lot of volunteer work in senior centers. Is part of what I was interested in. It's a big factor, and yeah.
What type of work is in the senior centers?
We would go and sing at the senior centers a couple times a month. And so we would go to different senior centers. I'm personally a horrible singer, so I'm not sure why anyone would listen, but I think it was more for the the community aspect and the senior way, making connections were singing along to songs that they knew or maybe had forgotten, but it still conjured up good memories. So I really did that.
So Zoe, follow-up question for you too. So, you're comfortable with technology. So, you're gonna be using, different types of, programs like Excel, Budget, and so forth. Do you have any experience with, grant writing in your roles as a teacher or anything?
I don't have any experience with grant writing as a teacher. However, in college, I was responsible for organization within our college's project. I was the treasurer, and so I had to apply for funding for our organization, make reports on how we were spending the money and such. I didn't have that experience.
So thank you for your time. We appreciate your interest in the position as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it as well.
I do have, sorry, one more question. On here, Granby, it says Myanmar school. Are you currently still there? 'Cause it's years. I did notice that you are going to be getting a master's in education. Is there any other thing you want to add about the senior center or anything that you can think of? I know you said you forgot to mention that you used to volunteer, so anything that you can.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Minutes.
I will make a motion to approve our minutes from July 10th, 2023.
Who seconded it?
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor? Anybody opposed?
I will make a motion to approve minutes from our 8/21/2023 meeting as well.
I will second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Next on the agenda is the Director of Senior Services. Ready to move forward on this, or we want to kind of think about, we just had with Zoe?
Good job. I do about putting someone in the position where not the position, but the director. So they're running the program. So I guess that's where I have it. Just because they're both not in leading roles. Yes. So obviously that 90-day waiting period. Or that 90-day period where but it's just something that I struggle with. So you want to make sure you put a person in there, and they both come at the different things. Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of on the same line. Honestly, I'm more towards Natalie right now. That's the whole thing. And one of the reasons I'm leaning that way, from what you just said, she's a little older, more relatable to others to get along with. I think quicker adaptation with her. Zoe, I thought she had a pretty decent interview, making my vision on the whole thing a little harder. One thing I did notice, she's living now. She cooked by. Your picks.
Yes, she would need to return back to the city.
She's going to masters. Okay. Well, Beverly met my son.
I Zoe had a nice interview. It just seems, yes, a lot of her background with teaching. It's, and I understand that with people teaching, working with the students, and I heard a lot of that throughout her interviews. And I think back to when we interviewed Natalie, I believe it was we're talking about seniors, what she can do to help the senior. And some of the work that she already has to do with the seniors. She had some type of relationship with the senior population. And I guess I'm thinking about that this is what this is about. It's working with the senior population. Who would be the best fit? I'm for that. And I think with both of you, when we talk about as far as this is a direct position, this is a leadership position. The two candidates that we're talking about really add, I think, to the to the level that we were anticipating. That's fair to say. So with that, but it's part where we need someone in that position. I think us just waiting is not the answer. So that's why I think it's important that the board does act on this position. And whoever decides to put in that position, that we stay focused on that individual. We need to do like monthly updates with that person and to us, in front of us, outside the regular report. But also make sure that that individual has the needed tools and information that would be, directive direction our administrator as well. So a wealth of information and wealth of knowledge, not part of the town, but experience in running a department. I'm thinking that's some flow, back down to whatever person it may be. But I just don't think putting someone in that position is not the answer at this point. I think we need someone. We know we have a new director right now. That is out. Time is
I do have, we have a technology piece, that she was willing to use different types of media in order to join the community. She was willing to do, different events after hours, it's good for the community, and I think, like we were saying, with them not having necessarily the, experience or the experience that they're looking for, both of them are going to be in trying to make whoever trying to make their program and bring the seniors in and engage them. We like that she had grant writing skills as well. The treasurer for the organization that she did. I think that's a big plus as well. So
I remember Natalie, I think she's also talking about.
she was I think.
Yeah, no, she was also good. She was going to do that, but I mean, I'm talking about. I think she said something about social media, doing something there. So she was going to reach out to media something to try to enhance the program.
if you would want to take some additional time. I know we interviewed Zoe, expressed our mind to, do easily, if you want, go back and watch the interview with them. Postpone this, just wait till next week to, move forward on it. People maybe, people are just sure at this point. But like I said, I know people feel that, they're bringing forward the best candidate that they think is bad.
I can tell you, I feel comfortable with the person I'm to see there.
It's awesome.
And I'm leaning towards that.
I was going to say I could go home and review my notes. I was 2 interviews and review notes from these, and come with the decision for sure on Monday. But just, I think we had a lot of strong characteristics too. So I hope I'm ready with the final decision on Monday. That's what the board wants.
Do we have a meeting on that day? Oh, that's right.
It's that
That meeting.
it's not that's what you feel you do, but that's fine until next Monday. We could proceed. It's up to you. I myself just kind of revisiting Amanda's interview. I know the second candidate, not too, it's fresh in my mind, that was some time ago. So I would following up on that and looking at it one time. So I'm leading right now, but I'd like to reassure my own decision, make sure that's what I feel is right.